Hello everyone, Mr. Nacho here, and today I wanted to bring you a full test, breakdown and a tier list of every single long gun in the game. With little asterisk right here, and the exception for this testing was the Aphelion, it was the Nightfall, and the Rusty Lever Action. The first two are the exception because they are bugged right now and they way overperform, but I will still mention them later in the video. And the Rusty Lever Action is just a worse version of the Wrangler 1860, so I didn't mention it either. I will test every single one of the long guns that are remaining, and I will let you know the results. Also, the basis for it, I do not have any relic or relic fragments equipped. No weapon has any modification or mutator on it, except for the ones that can't really take them off, like the Crescent Moon with its Moonlight Barrage and other special items. I don't have any jewelry, no amulets, no rings on it, and the classes that I'm using, it's the Hunter and Gunslinger, so everything should be consistent and it should all be scalable. I also didn't invest in any traits, not that it should matter, because I tested every single gun on the closest dummy, so the shotguns perform great. But you have to keep in mind that every single shotgun will fall off as its damage falls off with the distance, so I will mention it later on in the tier list as well. Also, for future reference, the mutators that I will be mentioning are as follows. It's Bandit, which basically grants you a chance to return some of the ammo spent directly into the weapon's magazine and continue firing, and on top of that it increases fire rate whenever this happens. The second one would be the Extender, which just increases the mag capacity and increases the reload speed. Then there is Momentum, which increases your crit chance and crit damage. Then there is Slayer, which increases the reload speed, and reloading increases the damage of this weapon's next shot by 20%. Then there is the Supercharger, which increases the speed for bows and fusion rifles. Charged primary shots of bows and fusion rifles gain 15% crit chance. And then we have Twisting Wounds, which increases ranged damage to bleeding targets, and weak spots and crits cause the target to bleed. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so when it comes to the tier list, we have a tier F that is specially reserved for the Twisted Arbalist. It's a terrible weapon for single target. It's extremely fun to use, but it's not really good at all. And the E tier is all empty because no one wants to be even close to the Twisted Arbalist. In D tier, we have the Deceit and the Crossbow. The Deceit, the problem with it is that you cannot get the weak spot damage unless you are using the mod for this weapon, but even then you deal reduced weak spot damage, and the upkeep of the mod on the boss is extremely laborious and sometimes difficult. The other weapon is the Crossbow. It pains me greatly because I love the Crossbow. The good things about it is that you can apply any mod that you want, which is nice, but in general it just doesn't really do that much damage and it's not a great weapon. In C tier we are getting to more usable weapons, which is the Widowmaker. It's decent. You should think of it as a younger brother of the Sporebloom. And then again there is the bow, the regular one, where you can add the mods to it as well. And again, it's just a younger brother of Sagittarius and the other bow. Then we have the Repulsor, which is a decent shotgun, but what holds it back is, well, the mod. It's very situational, and the reload time. The reload time on this weapon is terrible. It's barely usable because of it. Same thing with Merciless. It has incredibly nice fire rate, it has a very fun mod, and it's really strong. But when it comes to the primary fire, whenever you just use it as a gun, it's not the strongest weapon out there, and it has an almost, or actually over, a 5-second reload, which is way too much in an action-oriented game. Then we have the Coach Gun, which by itself outputs some decent damage. The problem with it is that it only has 2 shots in every magazine. You can extend it to 3 by using the extender, but it doesn't really help this weapon this much. It's okay to use, but there are way better options for whatever you're trying to achieve with this weapon. So then there is actually my favorite weapon in the entire game, the Starkiller. I would have hoped for this weapon to be higher, but this is where it has to be. The mod deals lackluster damage. The only thing good about this weapon is the reload speed and the base damage. Then we have a weapon that a lot of people like, is the LMG. The nice thing about it is that you can apply any mod to it. So you can apply corrosive rounds, or you can apply the burning rounds. They all work very well with this weapon, but then again it has the worst mechanic in the entire game, in my opinion, the overheat, which takes it down a peg. Normally it would have been in A tier, but there is a better weapon that does almost the same thing that LMG does, and it doesn't have the overheat mechanic. Then we have the Wrangler. It's an okay weapon. It's a straight upgrade from the Rusty Lever action. It's fine whenever you pair it with the Bulletstorm ability on the Gunslinger, but other than that it's just lackluster, and then you have to reload every single bullet separately, which increases the reload speed by a big amount. Then we have the Pulse Rifle. It's a fun weapon to use, but there is a lot of clicking involved. It shoots the bursts of 3 rounds every single time you click. It's decent, and well, there's just better options. There's nothing inherently wrong about this weapon, it's just the numbers on it aren't that great. Then we have the Plasma Cutter, which has, again, terrible mechanic of overheating. However, when you use its mod, there is no way that you will overheat this weapon. So it's an in-between sort of. It needs just a little bit of a kick to get to A tier, but it's extremely close. And their last weapon in the B tier is the Huntmaster M1. It's a decent weapon. It has a scope that, well, very few people use. It's not really that great of a weapon. It's basically just a shovel with a scope. It does okay damage. You can apply any mod to it that you want. It reloads all 7 bullets that it holds at the same time, so it's great. The fire rate is okay. It's just, as you can see, the DPS isn't that good and the mods don't really bump it up that much. Then we have the A tier, and there we have 2 special weapons, which is one that you get, Alpha Omega, that you get from killing the last boss in the game, and the Savior that you get for doing a hardcore nightmare run of the game. So this weapon, Savior, it's actually quite decent. It's really nice when it comes to clearing out mobs. The basic fire on it is just as if you were shooting a bow. You just need to charge and release at the specific time. The damage on it is really nice. The handling is pretty good. The reload time could be better, but the overall DPS is extremely nice. Then we have the better version of the LMG, which is the Chicago typewriter. It's just great with any sort of elemental bullets that you put on this. It can be electricity, it can be acid, it can be fire. It all works great on this weapon. But the base of it is that it has incredible ammo capacity. Fire rate is great. The base damage could be better, but that's okay. In general, it's a great weapon that doesn't have the overheat mechanic. Then we have the Bulldog automatic shotgun, which is a decent weapon, and if you spec to it correctly, it can be a railgun. The only problem this weapon has is the reload speed, but it can be amended with some rings and by choosing the gunslinger class. In general, very solid weapon. I recommend it. And then we have the Alpha Omega, which is a decent weapon in by itself. Whenever you apply the supercharger mod to it, it becomes even better. The mod on it isn't really that great. It's good to do some damage and to regain some ammo, but in general the rifle itself is really good. And now we have the best of the best, the S tier. So of course the winner, the best gun in the game in my opinion, is the Spore Bloom. I have an entire video on different ways that you can build it, but basically you would want to go Bandit if you are brave enough, and if you just want consistency you would go for Slayer. But you want to build it as if it was a sniper rifle, so you want the reticle to be extremely small, and you just want to try to get the RNG gods to bless you enough so that you will get 5 or 6 shots from the Spore Bloom consecutively, thanks to the Bandit mod. And then you will be able to one-shot some bosses. Then we have the Sagittarius, which is the direct competitor to the Crescent Moonbow. They both serve a purpose and they both have their own role. Basically, Sagittarius is a better version of the bow that has a worse mod, and the Crescent Moon is the worst version of the bow, but it has a much better mod. So depending on what you like more, you'll have to choose one of those, but both of them are extremely solid picks. And then we have the Jack of all trades, the gun that you can use for almost anything, the Blackma. It works incredibly good with any build. You can put any mod on it and it will do great. The reload is decent, the accuracy is fine, the recoil is manageable. It's just an extremely decent gun with extreme versatility. You will see a ton of people running with it. So basically this was all just to test the damage of the weapons. As you can see, some of the weapons have higher damage and they are still lower on the tier list. It's by the design. I wanted to do it this way. This damage right here is just an overview on how much damage the weapon does after 1 minute of consecutive firing. So in a prolonged fight, after 1 minute, this is the damage that the weapon deals. But this tier list is based on how the weapon would do in a specified build. And I will show you a few builds for the chosen weapons in a minute. Also, I would like to mention, if the Nightfall wasn't bugged currently, it would be in the S tier. And if Aphelion wasn't bugged, it would be also in the B tier with the rest of the mediocre guns. Okay, and here is an optimized build number 1. We are going for the Hunter Gunslinger. The relic elements that we are using are the range crit chance, crit damage and fire rate. The weapon is Blackma with corrosive rounds and momentum. And we are using Devoured Loop, Stone of Malevolence, Probability Cord, Zanius Malice and the Golden Ribbon. The skills we are using are Hunter's Focus and Bulletstorm, and the main goal of this build is to constantly have everything up. So we will get the corrosive rounds up because of the Stone of Malevolence, and the Devoured Loop should give us Bullet Storm and Hunter's Focus up as soon as they finish. So let's take a look. Okay, so as you can see, we kept up 5000 DPS, our skills are back up, our mod is back up, we can still just keep on firing. This build is incredibly nice. So the other build that I wanted to show you is the build with the Crescent Moon Bow. We are using the Supercharger Mutator on it. We are using ranged crit chance, ranged crit damage and weak spot damage. We have the Burden of the Follower to have our Moonlight Barrage all the time. We have Tightly Wound Coil to proc the Energy Diverter, and we have Xania's Malice and Probability Cord. We have switched the ability to Hunter's Shroud because with the lower fire rate, we will get to refresh the buff every single shot. So let's see. And we already have it back. Yeah, 4000 DPS, it's really nice. We have a shield, we are constantly getting healed because of the effect. It's a really good build for the high damage, and if you can hit those weak spots, it's really nice. And with the last build, we'll go over Bulldog. We are using the ranged crit chance, crit damage and weak spot damage. We are using Bulldog with corrosive rounds and momentum. We are again using Devoured Loop, Stone of Malevolence, Probability Cord, Xania's Malice, but this time we are using Gunslinger's Charm, and we are using Hunter's Mark and Bullet Storm. So let's see how this plays out. As you can see, we are at 4,500 DPS. We have our skills back, we have our mod back, we have everything back. We can just keep on firing. This is incredibly nice. The only thing that you have to remember for this to work properly is that you need to have the Tranquility Font Concoction active, and you need to have handling maxed to have this small of a reticle. Also, having the Hunter as an archetype is extremely nice because you get 6 meters of the bonus range, and this is not just the max range, this is the ideal range, which takes it from 10 meters to 16 meters, so this is a 60% increase. It's incredibly nice. Thank you very much if you made it this far. This was a lot of work to do. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you have learned some new things. I know I did, and please let me know in the comments below of any feedback that you might have. Thank you so much. Have a good one.